Welcome. Thanks for coming, and I get to sit down right away. I'm Dave Bartoletti. I'm a principal analyst at Forrester Research. I actually lead our cloud playbook team, and this is my favorite type of presentation when somebody does all the work I don't have to do. I've been covering Pivotal since it was a gleam in the eye of VMware folks, and have been covering Cloud Foundry just as long. So I run our research on modern application platforms, or we're calling the digital application platform revolution. I think it's really going to take center stage in 2019 as people learn that we're beyond IaaS solving problems, and it is now the platform layer, and almost every large enterprise I'm talking to is laying down the platform that they're using to transform their business, not just their application portfolios. Before I was an analyst, I've been doing this about 10 years, I did a whole bunch of digital transformation in the 90s at TIBCO, where we transformed Wall Street. Of course, after the keynote this morning where that kid basically put up a slide of technologies from the 90s and said it was ancient history and laughed at it. I just thought, that's just so nasty, right? Can't we all, exactly, can't we all just get along and like hate the mainframe people, right? Yes. We're supposed to be making fun of that, right? And Fortran and stuff like that, not stuff we did in the 90s, you know? Anyway. I am joined by two wonderful gentlemen from Boeing, and I will let them introduce themselves. And
yeah, thank you. By the way, Fortran, we still use.
I know, we were
engineering
talking about it yesterday.
We'll talk about that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so my name is Enes Yildirim. I'm the global head for digital transformation environment at Boeing. I'll talk a little bit about what that is before we get into details. So digital transformation environment is really our second century approach to transforming how we build software at the Boeing company.
Second century, so Boeing's been around 100 years?
Second century. We turned 100 in 2016, so we're about 102.
Great.
It's a long history. And it's the holistic approach to transform how we build software. It includes people, process, technology, tools, infrastructure, the whole gamut, whatever it takes to really transform and build the next generation software products. For those of you that listened to the main stage yesterday with Ted Colbert, our CIO, it's the Jetson software that we're building in these environments. So,
thanks.
Brad?
And Brad?
Thank you. My name is Brad Schaefbauer, and I am the manager for private cloud at Boeing. So my job is infrastructure as a service using OpenStack and the Cloud Foundry, platform as a service. Kubernetes. We also have several databases. Everything that we need to put available to make DTE work. So make it so that Enes no longer has to worry about infrastructure. That's the whole idea. Make it frictionless for him, and we'll take care of that.
Before the environment was born, is it fair to say you were more dev, architecture focused, app focused, and you were on the infrastructure side?
Well, way back when, in the Jetsons age, I was doing app dev.
Pre-Jetsons, right.
Yeah, pre-DT, I was actually, together with Brad, leading the enterprise cloud services. So a lot of the DT concepts of transforming how we build products and services came from our desire and need to innovate at the rate the business needed and the industry is providing cloud services. And we're just really getting hampered with all the different things like processes, tools, infrastructure. Being an infrastructure, we were hampered by infrastructure. And that really caused us to come up with the full transformation effort that's focused a lot more on the application and the business side, while also partnering closely with our cloud buddies still and delivering the platform so we don't have to talk to each other that often.
Yeah. That's sort of where I wanted to start, right? Yesterday it sounded, when your CIO gets up the day before, you're talking about your work, right? And already says it's wonderful and he's bought in and it's transforming the business. Was it always that way? I mean, when you were first giving birth to the DTE, was it?
Oh boy.
Was he completely, was management completely on board?
So I'll say Ted, so this journey started about 3 years ago, but he's personally been owning this. So when I brought in the proposal for our transformation, which I call the 300, for those of you that know the movie,
From
it's
the
about
movie?
Yeah.
Yes, it's that movie, and it even had all the blood splatter and everything. But the proposal really
The
was...
abs? Did it have the abs?
It had the abs and everything. But it was really all about how do you have 300 people that are extremely focused and they have their roles and responsibilities clear, they have all the tools and techniques and training to really, in that case, hold 1 million, but in this case could do the job of 3,000 and delivering at the scale and velocity that the Boeing company needs to continue being the leader in our second century.
Why did you believe that you could do that? What made you think? Did you do it somewhere else before? Did you?
I think what sold us was visiting one of the pivotal labs, the biggest pivotal labs in San Francisco. They had this what I call the factory of custom software shop. And just going in there, said, okay, that looks like what we should have at the Boeing company. And honestly, other than just maybe dumb courage to believe that we could transform a very large corporation that's 100 years old, just seeing that it is needed was the only fuel. But
were you bought in from the beginning?
So in my journey that I took, I started off, about a decade handling WebSphere infrastructure, middleware, and it got to a point where I was just exhausted with it. I was tired of the day, the grind, and all this stuff, and all the changes had to be on weekends or evenings, and getting this form, that form, waiting a couple of months for a VM to stand up something else. And when this opportunity came up, it said, "Who wants to try something new?" And I went, "I'll try something new," and then I didn't know what I got into. And so then I thought, well, if I'm here, I might as well make the best of it. So started working with Enes and just thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. What's the worst that can happen? So in my case, I made a decision to stop asking for permission, stop expecting somebody else is going to do anything for me at all.
Right.
Start saying no to processes and just tell them, look, we got to get this up and running. Once we got the okay to start doing it, then you have to work with a host of people that have no clue what you're trying to do. They're like, "Oh, that's not how we've done things for a long time." Right. And you're saying, well, this is a new thing. Yeah, new things aren't good. We don't like new things. You ever see the movie The Croods? The new thing, they stomp on it.
New things.
Yeah. We don't like new things. So it gets to be where you have to bring others along with you as you're doing it. You have to help them learn it, and that takes conversation. So I went from somebody who was frustrated with my job, then into this where I'm frustrated because I'm still blocked, to where I have to start realizing this is new for everybody. So I need to be more gracious and talk to them and get them on board and give them the vision and help them understand what we're trying to do here. And then they're like, oh, not only this new, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be great, something interesting. And that's how I got started.
Did you have to learn marketing skills? Or more sort of
marketing
skills of persuasion?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I can be pretty persuasive. Anyway, have I persuaded you that?
You have. Did it help that you started sort of up at the IaaS layer? You got some commitment to try this IaaS stuff in OpenStack, right? So there was at least some sort of an IaaS foundation before you started doing or were they at the same time?
Well, so we started doing OpenStack early on with the managed private cloud. So people already had their mindset that something new was coming.
All right.
Whatever that path took for that particular product is another story. But the fact is that set the precedence for, we're doing something. We're willing to make some commitment and start making this cloud thing really happen for the developers. That really got a lot of momentum.
And did it help that they started getting a taste of self-service and things like that? Or did you not even expose self-service?
Oh, well, so self-service didn't happen until we stood up the platform.
All right.
And from there it went crazy. We started on early on saying, look, no more forms, no more permissions, or no more asking permission.
Right.
You hire somebody to be a developer and then they have to ask, can I develop?
Right, absolutely.
Right, it doesn't make sense. So frictionless environment for them, no forms to fill out, you can get on board. You can do a push within 15 minutes of when you decided you wanted to be on Cloud Foundry. And with that, it went grassroots super fast, and we started off with a couple of teams going on, and then because they can self-onboard, our latest numbers are almost 2,000 developers in just 18 months.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the things that
That's
we've
really
done
fast.
learning from the cloud service was finances were actually being a hindrance.
Oh, yeah.
So we pushed pretty hard to make it zero cost to the individual, but it's an overhead cost to everyone. So we practically made it free for the developers to use, which really made it more attractive for everyone to want to get onto the platform. And as a result, I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I don't think we had anything else that just picked up this fast. Ease of use, no paperwork,
Right.
and also
Free.
it's free,
Right.
and it's easier.
How did you make it free?
Well, so we made it free by leveraging our extremely complex financial processes and pool structures. So there is a thing called leverage the complexity of your environment. This is one of them. And I think we heard from the Air Force earlier today, they leveraged their complexity by saying like, well, you could publish a memo of understanding as the director in charge of cybersecurity.
Right.
Great. I mean, that's a bureaucracy that could have stopped her from delivering. It enabled her to actually sign waivers with some risk. In our case, we used the pools and distributed the cost to everyone. So it became free to the individual app, so it drove demand naturally. So those are kind of the Aikido tactics we've used to increase adoption naturally.
And
But-
Well, that's sort of a different tack than we hear a lot, right?
Yeah.
Which is these projects slow down because you have to continually prove that every new implementation of the platform or rollout is actually saving costs somehow. And in the first time that we started planning for this session, I remember you saying, cost is not my thing, right? If someone's going to negotiate Pivotal down or negotiate a cloud provider down, we have a great team at Boeing that will do that.
Yeah.
We have somebody that will get us the best price.
Yes.
So your job was not arguing with the vendor. Your job was to internally convince the development organization that they could adopt this without getting penalized for spending more money.
Yeah, and one thing that was really interesting is everybody was happy. Okay, great. It's basically free. And then, well, no, it's not free. It actually is charged to every one of the. Basically, every user gets charged with it. So then the conversation is, oh, it's not free, but you're paying for it anyway. Don't you want to use it? You're paying for it. And by the way, if you don't use it, you're still paying for it. So.
Why are you punching yourself? Strategy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, hey, you already bought it. Why don't you have some
Yeah.
benefit out of it?
So I think you asked another question about like, how do we think we're going to make this happen? And I don't want to pass on that because like how many people are from either Boeing or have worked with Boeing very closely? I mean,
I love it.
this is the group of people that have been mostly from the beginning self-selecting to, in some cases, risking their career. And I can tell many stories at a different time of how they courageously stepped up to the challenge and owned the mission of transforming how we build software. And it wasn't just the Boeing people that took the risk. I know a couple of Pivotal people that took the risk. So it's just that partnership and truly believing in the result and the outcome of transforming really the great company, one of the greatest companies in the world, is a mission that we all accepted and self-selected, and just without even sometimes realizing what it took.
I just think we prove over and over again in each new era that the most successful transformation projects in large enterprises are ones where the team views the vendors as partners rather than as suppliers. And it sounds so trite to keep saying it, but after 25 years, every time I hear, we can't let AWS get too much power, right, in our company, right? Or we can't let this one particular vendor get too much power in our environment. We have to keep hands off. I say then the project's probably not going to be successful to begin with, right? You have to give them the power to help you transform. Then stop paying them and push them out the door, after they've already done it. I'm interested in metrics because we keep
Oh,
We're doing a lot of research now. What we hear a lot from Forrester clients is this is all wonderful. Everyone self-selects. They come in the environment. They love what they're doing. And then 6 months later, we get an evaluation on the same metrics I had before. MTTR, tickets closed, response time. And they say, that's not my job anymore. And I'm being measured on the wrong thing. Did you change metrics on either dev and ops?
so success metrics that we have, counted. Obviously, the adoption rate is huge. So, getting almost 2,000 developers on there in 18 months, it just shows an explosion of use. We have 3,000 applications in development right now, and that's they're not all hello world.
Congratulations
Guys,
for
come on.
That's a lot of applications.
Over 700 of them that are in production and being used. On Friday, we had 339 pushes in production on Friday alone, which was a slow day at Boeing, right?
That's incredible.
Yeah. And it took us 80 days to stand up the platform from the time that we signed our deal, and that's incredible for Boeing. We into production. Then we released our second release 43 days after that, and in that one we put it in 2 data centers and added Microsoft .NET Framework support and all the Windows pieces that need to go with that in just that short amount of time. And now...
So you're pushing the platform using the same approach you push software?
Yep. Absolutely. And in fact, our teams work in the same building, in the same floor, the same configuration, and we found that is just really wonderful for, with the way DTE is bringing in applications and they rotate through, they have the platform team right there, and they can talk to them directly, and it really is great synergy.
Do you feel more that you're really on the same team? Like you are on a product team together with development and ops more than before?
Well, absolutely more than before.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you sit near each other?
Yeah, no, what's that?
Do you sit near each other?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not us
But okay, so we have a facilities situation.
We're growing.
In about a couple of months, we're growing at a rate that the facilities is trying to catch up.
Yeah.
But some of the, you ask for the metrics. I look at how many functions are owning this mission. So facilities actually own this mission on behalf of us, and they made our DT standards the global innovation standards for facilities.
Wow.
We're working with HR on HR practices, compensation. How do you
that was
reward
the other
them?
one I wanted you to bring up. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's very cool.
Yeah, so
You're
we're
actually
working
looking
with corporate functions to
Go.
really fundamentally, we're pathfinding the new things, but that's only good enough for some of the small portions of our company. We're working with the institutions that own the processes and governance, and to make really institutionalizing the change. That's what we're doing. And there's huge reception, and we're in a good time because we have the Second Century Enterprise Initiative that's really helping us rethink our processes and pick, and really ultimately our culture. But I want to go back to the KPIs. The first thing we did when we kicked off is we threw our regular KPIs out the door. We said we're going to do something different. We got together as an executive leadership team for DTE that was cross-functional. And we came up with 5 things. We said, what's outcome? Equal to business value, dollars, cents, or strategic value. Number 2 was time to market. How long does it take you to get the MVP out? Is it days or months, or is it years? And how fast are you releasing afterwards, which is daily or weekly in many cases. We looked at time on product. How much time are you spending building things, or how much are you spending processing things that are non-value added? We looked at customer satisfaction, which was something that's new, treating each other as internal customers, and looking at the happiness of your products that you're providing, internal or external. And the most important and the only leading indicator is team morale. We actually created a little, like the things you see in the bathrooms, that's like the happy, sad face.
Yep.
We created a little web app that's up there, and immediately we were tracking the happiness of these new engineering centers that we developed across the 4 different global sites we have. And that just to track to make sure people are happy. And people are happy. So many people are saying that they're so happy to come to work, energized to come to work, they're delivering value. We don't work overtime. We only work 40 hours, but they're 3 to 4 times more productive than they were before in the 40 hours that they're working.
So you've been able to fit what sounds like, an aggressive Silicon Valley approach to software development into a culture that still values a personal life.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think that's...
You can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
It's all perfect. Now, tell me about something that went wrong.
Nothing went wrong.
Nothing went wrong. What I think is always helpful is, this all is beautiful in retrospect, but we hit a hiccup along the way, and maybe we can warn you about a hiccup you might hit.
Well, when we first started setting up the platform, we put together our team, and it was really important to get information security on board early on. And they're not used to that. They're used to, if you bring your thing to them, oh, I don't like this, take it back, that kind of thing. But we didn't want that.
Let me tell you how it works.
Yeah.
I don't really want to know how it works.
Exactly.
I just don't like it.
So we brought information security in, and it was difficult at first, but after, I don't know, a week or so, they started learning this new technology as well, because just because you're in information security doesn't mean you're up to date on everything.
Sure.
And it doesn't even mean that person chose to have to come to this dojo every day and pair with these people who aren't information security professionals.
Right.
So it was difficult for them. It's a whole new thing for them as well. So, that was really great to bring them on board early. But one of our problems we had is that at Boeing we have a tradition of slicing a person up into little pieces where he works on this project and then this one, and that's because we have a culture, or had a culture, of blockages. Oh, I'm going to work on this for now until it's blocked, and then I'll work on this till I get blocked, and then that kind of thing, right? But that's not what we wanted in this dojo. We wanted everybody to be committed to it and stay all day. So what would happen is lunchtime would roll around. We'd start at 9, lunch would be at noon. Everybody would go to lunch, and the pivots would come back, and I would come back, and no Boeing people would come back. I'm like, well, where are they? What are they doing? It's like, oh, I went to my real job. I got my real job over here. It's like, oh, great. How are we going to do this? Well, because it was what we call an integrated team, I don't have authority over these people. I can't say, you get your, They're volunteers is the way you have to consider it, right? Because they still have other work. So we came up with a little plan. We're just going to serve really nice lunch every day on site. You got to be on site to eat it.
At 5 o'clock?
No, at noon. But what was great is everybody worked all the way through their lunch, and they didn't leave, and they stayed. And once you start eating together and working together, you start becoming friends, you start enjoying yourself. Pretty soon the team is just super cohesive, super productive. And hey, what's for lunch tomorrow? Then other groups see us in there, and they're like, hey, we want lunch too. So at first there was a lot of pushback. What's with this lunch thing? Oh boy, don't you know we have to save money? All these lunches are expensive. Anyway, so start inviting other people to the team.
More expensive than the dojo?
See, that's the point, right?
Sorry, Total.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that was one of the things, how much you spending on lunch every day. It's like, okay, $120, but you know what we pay an hour for these guys? Come on. We just got 3 of them to give us a free hour. That was awesome. So anyway, that's part of our cost savings model.
You should just say, there's a reason why Google has free cereal.
There is,
There's
yeah.
a reason.
So I think, thinking maybe a bit broader, we created a movement across the Boeing company, from the CEO down into our teams and individuals. Very quickly, I think within 6 months, we were getting recognized at every level. That we did that very well. What we did afterwards, that I would, depending on the situation you're in, is look into how do you scale. And I think one of the things that I would consider if I were one of the larger companies is, should you consider scaling your application by maybe picking a domain? It doesn't have to be a large domain. It shouldn't be a small domain. Something big enough that everybody knows about, cares about, and really transform that whole domain and focus on that first.
Got it.
Because then you'll work out all the kinks, And now you're going to actually create an approach that you can replicate and scale out to many other domains.
Got it.
So I think one of the things, that's one thing that we could
scale
have.
up before you've proven the
Yeah,
whole
just pace your appetite. I mean, we created such a movement that it was impossible to hold. But that's also a good thing. And also think about, we had a really good central team that I call the team that's doing the evangelization, managing the processing, the actual making the change. We didn't have enough salespeople.
Internally selling.
Internally selling, and full-time their job is to help these domain leaders, and I'm looking at one of them right now, to really build their own transformation journey plan and helping them through that journey, dedicated full-time, 1 or 2 of those per domain.
Right.
Just so think about, for those of you, this is a good learning you can do afterwards, theory of constraints. And if for those of you that read the book, The Goal, you're going to notice Herbie. Look at your Herbie and try to make sure that Herbie has the highest utilization. So your dev teams need to be fully utilized, your developers, but your supporting teams and supporting functions, you need to think about it at the second time, whether you should be limiting your supporting functions. So that's where your sales and overhead and your training and agility and all the other things need to be available and not oversubscribed, as we always do in sake of cutting costs.
Got it. That's great advice. A few minutes for questions?
Yeah.
I think, or are we already done?
No, we have one, maybe one, two. Any questions?
Quick questions.
Someone's got a question. Hi, back there.
Someone that's not Boeing.
Do you recognize him? Is he a plant?
Yeah, he's not Boeing. Yeah. Or I can't see him.
He's wearing a Flintstones t-shirt.
I'm not a plant.
Yeah.
What I wanted to know is, can you identify any events that occurred in your transformation when there was still a significant amount of risk that you didn't anticipate yet gave you additional positive momentum?
That's a tough one. I think what we didn't anticipate, and I don't think there's a negative side to this, I'll give an example. What we didn't anticipate is how fast our business would adopt our principles and how much they would end up owning it. So we had a couple of, so software engineering at Boeing is not in just IT, it's actually in IT and across many different places at Boeing. What we found is some of our airplane engineering teams or our software engineering that builds things that actually fly, they adopted the principles like their hair was on fire. And they adopted in such a way that they went ahead and had these tens of teams and over 100 teams way before we could do, just because they were so desperate in applying some of the principles. So I think that was an unforeseen effect of business owning it as much as we did in software engineering piece, which then really challenged our overhead function that's supporting transformation efforts. That was very positive though, and they're still doing a great job. Good question.
One more? I'm cool. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.